Exactly 6 p.m. in Cairo time to look up at the news bulletin from Channel 2. I'm Hanan Al-Khoury and we start right away with the headlines. President El-Sisi receives Somali counterpart, asserts backing Somali national reconciliation. Prime Minister Madbouli continues participation at two-day BRICS summit in Brazil. And 24 Palestinians killed in Israeli aggression in Gaza despite pressure on Netanyahu to clinch. Ceasefire continues. Welcome back. The news in full. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi reiterated Egypt's full support to efforts that aim to reach a national reconciliation in Somalia in order to boost security, restore stability, and enhance the sustainable development in the Horn of Africa country. Addressing a joint press conference with his Somali counterpart Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud following a meeting in the new Alamain city, the president said that security and political situations in the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea topped his talks with the Somali president. The head of the state said also that he and Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud also probed strengthening bilateral relations in light of the joint political declaration signed last January, and that aims at elevating relations between Egypt and Somalia to the level of comprehensive strategic partnership that covers political, economic, security, and military aspects. President El-Sisi added that during the talks, both sides also were committed to continue coordination as part of the military cooperation protocol signed by the both countries in August 2024 with the aim of backing national Somali institutions' efforts to restore stability and security to the nation. The president said that the talks also discussed Egyptian military and police participation at EU's new mission in Somalia as he hailed Somalia's president's efforts to face terrorism and to maintain the nation's unity. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on Monday held closed-door bilateral talks with Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud at the presidential palace in the new Alamain city. Presidential spokesperson Ambassador Mohammed El-Shenawi said that the meeting was followed by expanded talks joined by both countries' delegations. He said that the Egyptian-Somali talks reviewed means of boosting bilateral relations in addition to consultations on regional and constitutional developments and their impact on peace and security. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli on Monday asserted that the summit of BRICS emerging economies in Brazil comes at a time when the world is witnessing intricate and complex crises and challenges amid a remarkable degradation in multilateral action and international order efficiency. The Prime Minister was addressing a session on boosting multilateralism as part of his participation at the two-day summit on behalf of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Details.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli on Monday asserted that 17th BRICS summit in Brazil comes at a time when the world is witnessing complex crises and challenges amid remarkable degradation in multilateral action and in international order efficiency. As part of his participation at the two-day summit for emerging economies on behalf of President Fattah el-Sisi, the Prime Minister was addressing a session on boosting multilateralism, economic and financial affairs, and artificial intelligence. The head of the government said developing countries are suffering rising debt servicing burdens, inflation, difficulty in access to easy financing for their infrastructure projects. Madbouli asserted that these burdens grew more with geopolitical conflicts and tensions in the Middle East that led to further challenges, including rising illegal migration and displacement of peoples from their original homes. The Prime Minister called for boosting cooperation among central banks in the BRICS group and for enabling financial settlements in local currencies, reiterating Egypt's full commitment to joint cooperation cooperation among member states in achieving joint objectives. On the sidelines of the BRICS summit, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli met with the President of the Oriental Republic of Uruguay. The President praised Egypt's role in achieving regional peace and stability and in reaching a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The meeting reviewed continuous contacts by President Iftitah al-Sisi to ensure a lasting truce prevails in the Palestinian territory. The two sides also expressed willingness to boost joint cooperation in different fields and to enhance bilateral trade between the two countries.
Still on the news of Channel 2, and the BRICS leadership took aim at U.S. President Donald Trump's incriminate import tariffs and recent Israeli-U.S. strikes on Iran, while calling for a two-state solution in the Middle East conflict. In a joint statement from the opening of the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro released on Sunday afternoon, the group warned the rise in tariffs threatened global trade, continuing its veiled criticism on Trump's tariff policies. The 11 emerging nations, including Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, account for about half the world's population and 40% of global economic output. Voicing serious concerns about the rise of unilateral tariff measures, BRICS members said that the tariffs risked hunting the global economy. Earlier, BRICS also offered symbolic backing to fellow member Iran, condemning a series of military strikes on nuclear and other targets carried out by the Israeli and the United States. BRICS nations collectively called for a peaceful two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Egyptian expatriates Badr Abdelati said today that he was looking forward to a peaceful transition in South Sudan towards a stable and security stable political and economically. Egypt's top diplomat made these remarks in a phone call he received from his South Sudani counterpart Monday, Simaya Komba, where they tackled boosting bilateral ties along with regional issues of mutual concern. The foreign minister called on all parties in South Sudan to support a smooth transition in their country through closing ranks among them to serve national interests while benefiting from the backing of the international community and regional organizations. Moving on to the development in the Palestinian territories, the negotiations between Palestinian group Hamas and Israel continued in Qatar on Monday over a ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip. The latest round of negotiations began on Sunday, aiming to broker a ceasefire and reach an agreement on the release of hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. Sources close to the decisions said a proposal included a 60-day truce during which Hamas would release 10 living hostages and several bodies in exchange for Palestinians detained by Israel. The Hamas group was also demanding certain Israel's withdrawal guarantees against a resumption of fighting during negotiations and the return of the UN-led aid distribution system. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived in the U.S. base in Washington ahead of a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Ahead of Netanyahu's third visit since Trump took office this year, the U.S. President said that there was a good chance of reaching an agreement this year. In the Gaza Strip, 24 Palestinians were killed and others were wounded, including children, in Israeli occupation airstrikes on sporadic area in Gaza Strip since dawn. 6 were killed in clinic houses and people displaced by the war in the Gaza city. 5 others were martyred in occupation's bombardment of a house in Tofah neighborhood east of Gaza. Our economic segment to the Egyptian Borsa, Egypt's stock market closed in fluctuation today amid purchases by local and foreign investors and Arab and foreign corporations against self-offs of Arab investors and local corporations. The market capital of listed companies added £1 billion Egyptian pounds, crossing £2.3 trillion pounds at the end of an average transactions of £39.5 billion pounds. The benchmark index EGX 30 rose to 0.4% above the 33,037 point mark. The equal weighted indices EGX 70 and EGX 100 fell up to 0.3% and 0.1% respectively. And finally, from the oil market, as all traded of all the impact of the OPEC plus hiking output more than expected for August, as well as concern about the potential impact of U.S. tariffs, with prices reversing early losses. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and their allies agreed yesterday to raise production by 548,000 barrels per day in August. Brent crude future rebounded by up to 40 cents to $68.70 per barrel, and U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude oil was at $67.04 per barrel, up to 4 cents. Well, with this, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our news bulletin for now. Many thanks for watching, and from myself, Hanan Al-Khouli.